I feel like a day in the life of a scholar depends on what part of the program you're in. Maybe if you're closer to a conference deadline, then it's a little bit more intense, or actually a lot more intense than your usual other days or weeks. But I guess like from at the start of the program, it'd be a lot of like literature review and like reading a bunch of papers, getting ramped up, and getting started with like your experimental setup. A little further, you I guess like start running experiments. So there's all of that, a lot of like back and forth with getting the experiments right and doing all those sorts of things to have everything in place. And then maybe I guess like once you're closer to a paper deadline, you start writing or filling your overleaf, uh, getting plots and visualizations up, a lot of like discussions about how to frame the paper and stuff like that. And maybe once the deadline is through, it's a little bit more relaxed again. So I guess it just depends on what stage of the program you're in. But yeah, that's typically my timeline. But John, you should go ahead.
Yeah, I think Aakanksha is very right that I guess what you're doing day to day can vary a lot. Especially if you like have done, I think, other, tech company roles before where I think, most of the days are a lot more similar in research. I think there's a lot more variation in terms of what you're doing, depending on, like Akanksha said, where in the project you are. So during the beginning stages of a project, you're going to be spending a lot more time reading papers, getting familiar with the existing literature that is related to your project, and also scoping out and writing documents about what your plan is for the actual project and what kind of experiments you want to run, what hypotheses you have, and how you're going to test them. And then once you get to the actual implementation phase where you're trying to actually implement the code and infrastructure you need to run these experiments, you're probably going to be doing a lot more engineering. It's going to look a lot more like software engineering. Um, and then later on in the project, you'll be running your experiments, you'll get some kinds of results. And depending on how those turn out, you might, go back and reformulate what kind of experiments you want to run. If they turn out positive and things go well, eventually you'll start moving into a phase where you're spending a lot more time writing about your results and getting to a publication, especially towards a conference submission deadline. So it varies a lot day to day. I will also say, you're often not just working by yourself as a research scholar. You're spending a lot of time collaborating with your mentors, so research scientists who are on the team, as well as your peers as well. The other scholars in the program have been a very good resource to just kind of talk about ideas, debug code, all sorts of different ways that your peers can help you. So you're definitely not doing this all by yourself.